Hello my fellow friends, welcome to my latest demonstration. I'm going to use a container of mine that is this white ceramic, sort of slightly dimpled, sort of very thin, narrow, sort of trough type container. These twigs are, it's actually called, well, I'm not quite sure of its botanical name. I bought it ready dried, and on the list when it was dried, it just said it was called white bush, which doesn't really help us with the botanical name. But it is sort of quite, it's quite sort of spiky and sort of thorny looking, but it isn't too prickly. But it's perfect for this container because we can just wedge the pieces of wood in there, and sort of they sort of will hold in place and stay where I want them to stay. So I've just arranged them there in the container. Sort of they're wedged in, so they're sort of reasonably firm, and they'll stay in place. So this one is called white bush, which, as I say, doesn't really help very much. But any sort of twiggy, branchy things from the garden would work really nicely. And first of all, I'm going to use some spirea. So again, this grows in the garden, and it's just flowering at the moment, or starting to flower at the moment. This one I did buy commercially as a cut flower, and it's just so beautiful, so lovely. Sort of those sort of lovely sort of spikes of really delicate, beautiful flowers there, and I think it's rather funny actually, because I did a design with this in yesterday, and my friend here said, have you been raiding out of the garden? And honestly, I did buy them in first, so I didn't do any foraging. So, but you get some really sort of interesting shapes, and so we're going to try and pop those into the container. And again, sort of, I'm going to make use of sort of like the wild shapes that it's creating there. So we'll just bring those, and so. And what I love about this spirea is just the fact that it just looks so sort of light and transparent and ethereal, and gives just a beautiful effect to any arrangement. It sort of adds in a lot of space and volume without it being heavy and bulky. So spirea is one. If you've got that in your garden, that one is a great one to use. We can catch the piece coming up on the other side. So I think they look quite beautiful just coming in there. I'll stand out of the way so you can get a good view of the shape that I'm creating there. We're a little bit early for delphinium, but I've got some beautiful, just look at the colour of this. It absolutely is magnificent. This is a delphinium, and this one is called Volkenfried. And when you look at the individual stems of it, I really like this one because it's, again, very light and transparent. It's sort of very open, it's got quite sort of thin stems to it, and it does, again, just adds to that sort of overall lightness of the arrangement coming through there. So we can start to thread those down, and it's just this gorgeous, gorgeous electric blue is just fantastic. And so I think I'm going to just do a few on this side here. See, even just a couple going in there just looks absolutely divine, doesn't it? With that, just that really sharp blue colour. And we'll go in with one coming in a little lower down. Got a bit of a breeze coming through the conservatory here. It's quite a warm day actually, even though we're still in April at the moment. But it's just giving that movement and such a little bit of flow and rhythm to the arrangement there as well. So I've got those sort of coming through on that side. I'm going to bring one in a little shorter. So delphiniums, usually we think about the delphiniums being sort of like quite big spears of sort of quite chunky flowers. You know, when they grow in the garden, you see them in a herbaceous border, or places like Arley, and you go and they've got magnificent, really tall delphiniums. But this is a really beautiful and delicate version. And I think it's really useful for flower arranging because you've got that, say, you scale sometimes. If you're using the really big delphiniums, you've got to do a huge arrangement with those. So that lovely blue over to one side there. And so I've got a couple of stems just coming out. So I'm going to go quite short with this one just to bring a bit of that blue colour really, really low down. Okay, so we've got that lovely blue coming through there. If I stand to one side, I think my shirt's clashing with it a little bit, so you can see a bit better if you just see it against the plain background there. And I've got as well, again, a little bit early for it, but it's available as a cut flower, and I've got some gorgeous clematis, and this one is called River Star. So, and again, lovely clematis there with the little sort of star-shaped bells on it, and again, just that beautiful, beautiful pale lilac colour. And what I have done with this, I've actually, it did have a lot more leaves on it, quite big leaves, and I've taken some of the leaves off, just left a few smaller leaves on, so that we've still got that little bit of green in there, but sometimes the leaves overpower the flowers a little bit, so we're just going to, so I've just taken out a few of the sort of bigger leaves, and so I'm going to come through the centre of my design now, so start to bring those in this sort of central area, just to give it a little bit of a quirky effect. I've got some of the rattan balls, so these are just woven into a sphere shape, and they come in sort of slightly different sizes and things. And the thing is, I've got those twigs as a sort of framework in my arrangement, so I can actually spear some of those balls onto the sticks. Okay, so now those spheres in there, they just give it a little bit more interest. They give your eye something to settle on, so it gives it a little bit of a sort of focal point. So we've got those lovely pieces just coming through, so it just gives you, as I say, your eye an area to rest on, and then you can carry on and look at the rest of the design. And then I know, well, you know that I love my orchids, and so I thought I'd get a couple, I've got to get a couple of Singapore orchids in there, so we'll just bring that around, and I'm just going to bring some in, again, just in the central area towards the front there, and just bring a couple through. So these are Singapore orchids. I buy these from my exotic wholesaler. I've spoken to you about him before, from Mark Smith, and he imports these from Malaysia, and again, fantastic quality to the Singapore orchids there. They are absolutely gorgeous. And so I'll just bring a couple in towards the front, and one coming up just a little taller, just through there, and one more, I think, coming out. Just going in that central sort of focal area, and again, all the twigs and things are helping to hold everything in place. I'm going to bring my final one just ever so slightly out towards the other side there. If I can just turn it and show off those lovely florets coming through. And I think I just need to push that one in a little more. That's it. And there we go. So let's just add a little bit more whiteness and depth into the centre of the arrangement there. And again, need to just make sure I top up the container so that all those stems that haven't gone quite to the bottom will get a water supply. So really it's quite easy to arrange without foam, just using twigs, or you could use wire netting in there as well if you didn't have any twigs. But you can create such a beautiful design, and it is really easy to sort of place things, and they will stay where you've put them as well. So the fact that this one's got lots of pieces coming out, it just gives it that beautiful airy, as I say, that transparent, sort of ethereal, sort of really magical sort of quality, and coming out with all those sort of tendrils and sort of little thin branches and spikes coming through. So that's my design for you today. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I shall see you again